The Ivory Queen felt cold between Dominic Sterling's fingers as he stared across the chessboard at the girl who didn't belong here. 9 years old. Maybe 10. Wearing a donated sweater 3 sizes too large, sleeves rolled up to expose thin wrists. Her sneakers had holes near the toes. Her hair needed washing. She smelled faintly of the cheap institutional soap they used in foster homes. He'd donated enough to those places to recognize the scent. Comment below where you're watching from, this gets wild fast. The Windsor Hotel's grand ballroom glittered around them like a jewelry box. Crystal chandeliers worth more than houses. Men in tuxedos that cost $5,000. Women dripping in diamonds. New York's elite had paid $10,000 per plate for tonight's charity chess exhibition, and they'd gotten their money's worth watching Dominic Sterling, tech billionaire, chess champion, certified genius, destroy opponent after opponent with ruthless efficiency. Then this kid had walked up to his table. "Mr. Sterling," she'd said, her voice steady despite every eye in the room turning toward her. "I have a proposal." Dominic had laughed. The crowd joined in. His assistant, Trevor, had tried to intervene, but Dominic waved him off. This would be entertaining. Maybe even good press. Billionaire engages with underprivileged youth at charity event. A proposal? Dominic leaned back in his leather chair, swirling 25-year-old scotch in a crystal glass. "What could you possibly offer me, kid? I have $17 billion. 3 tech companies. A penthouse in Manhattan and a villa in Monaco. What do you have?" $200. She placed crumpled bills on the table beside the chessboard. "That's the entry fee for your chess exhibition. I saved for 3 years. I'm claiming my match." The crowd murmured. Trevor checked his tablet, then whispered, "She's right. She paid the entry fee online last week. Name Zara Volkov. Age 9. Listed address is a group home in Queens." Dominic studied the girl, Zara, with new interest. Her dark eyes never left his face. No fear. No shame about her appearance or her circumstances. Just steady, unnerving confidence. "You want to play chess with me?" Dominic stated it flat, not a question. "No." Zara's voice carried across the silent ballroom. "I want you to adopt me. The auction listing said you'd consider any proposal tonight. Mine is simple, play me in chess. If you win, I leave and never bother you again. If I win, you adopt me." The silence lasted 3 heartbeats. Then the ballroom erupted. Laughter. Shocked gasps. Camera phones appearing like magic. Dominic's PR team scrambled toward the table, but he raised his hand, stopping them. This was too good. Too perfect. "You want me, Dominic Sterling, ranked 15th among amateur chess players in the United States, to adopt you if you beat me?" He let his smile spread slowly, the one that made competitors nervous in boardrooms. "Kid, I don't even like children. They're loud, messy, expensive, and they ruin furniture. I've never wanted kids. I've never had kids. And I certainly never plan to have kids." "Then you have nothing to lose," Zara said simply. "Play me." Dominic glanced at the cameras. At the society columnists typing furiously on their phones. At his board members watching with barely concealed amusement. This story would dominate tomorrow's news cycle. Billionaire takes on orphan in chess match. Human interest gold. Fine. Dominic reset the pieces on the board, ivory and ebony clicking against marble. "But when I beat you in less than 20 moves, you leave quietly. No tears. No scene. Deal. Deal." Zara pulled out the chair across from him, expensive leather that probably cost more than every piece of clothing she'd ever owned combined. She sat down, her feet not quite reaching the floor. "But Mr. Sterling, you should know something before we start." "What's that?" Her eyes met his, and something in them made Dominic's confidence flicker like a candle in wind. "You're going to regret this offer." Dominic laughed and moved his first pawn. E4. The king's pawn opening. Classic. Aggressive. Dominant. "Where'd you learn to play, kid?" "Some after-school program. YouTube videos. My father taught me." Zara's hand hovered over her pieces. "Before he died last year. Before child services took me. Before I ended up in my 5th foster home in 11 months. Her voice went flat on those last words, emotionless in a way that only came from repeating the same story to too many social workers who didn't care. "Sorry about your dad." Dominic meant it, sort of. He'd lost his own parents young. Built his empire from nothing. But sympathy didn't win chess matches. "Now make your move so we can end this." Zara moved her knight. Not the standard reply. Something unusual. Something that tickled the back of Dominic's memory from matches he'd studied in college. He frowned. Moved his next pawn. She responded with her other knight. Another unorthodox placement. Around them, the crowd pressed closer. Dominic heard whispers. A woman in diamonds asked her husband if that was the Volkov opening. Another voice mentioned Soviet-era championship strategies. Dominic's stomach tightened. He pulled up his phone under the table, quickly searched chess databases. Volkov opening. Named after Nikolai Volkov, legendary Russian grandmaster who dominated international chess in the 2010s before vanishing from competition. He looked at Zara. Really looked at her. "Volkov. Your last name is Volkov?" "Yes." "Nikolai Volkov was your father?" "Yes." The ballroom's noise faded to white static in Dominic's ears. Nikolai Volkov. The ghost of the chess world. The man who'd beaten champions twice his age. Who'd disappeared at the height of his career. Who'd trained. Oh. Oh no. Dominic moved his bishop, but his hand shook slightly. Zara captured it with her queen 3 moves later, a sequence so elegant it looked choreographed. The watching grandmasters in the crowd began murmuring with respect instead of amusement. Trevor leaned down, whispered urgently. "Sir, I'm running her moves through your AI system. The probability calculator says." "I don't care what it says." Dominic's voice came out harsher than intended. "It says she has an 89% chance of winning." "Impossible." Dominic Sterling didn't lose. Not at chess. Not at business. Not at anything. Subscribe now, you need to see how this ends. Zara moved her rook into position, setting up a trap Dominic saw too late to avoid. Her eyes stayed on the board, but her voice carried clearly. 15 moves, Mr. Sterling. You said 20. I'll beat you in 15. My father taught me to always exceed expectations. Dominic's hands clenched into fists under the table. Around him, 500 of New York's wealthiest people watched a 9-year-old girl in donated clothes dismantle the ego of a man who'd built billion-dollar empires. The game was only halfway finished. And Dominic Sterling was already losing. Move 12. Dominic stared at the board, sweat beading at his hairline despite the Windsor's perfect climate control. His position had deteriorated from confident to defensive to borderline desperate. Every piece Zara moved seemed to appear exactly where he didn't want it, cutting off escape routes he hadn't realized he'd need. The crowd had stopped murmuring. The silence felt suffocating, broken only by the click of ivory against marble and the relentless tapping of phones recording his humiliation for posterity. Trevor returned from the tech corner where Dominic's team monitored the match through their AI system. He crouched beside Dominic's chair, voice barely above a whisper. Sir, I pulled her records. Zara Volkov. Born in Brooklyn 9 years ago. Mother Elena Rodriguez, died of cancer when Zara was 6. Father Nikolai Volkov, died of sudden cardiac arrest 14 months ago. She's been in foster care since. 5 placements. Current home is the Riverside Group Residence in Queens. 23 kids in a facility designed for 12. Dominic moved his remaining knight, trying to establish some defense. Zara captured it immediately with a pawn he hadn't noticed had advanced into striking range. How had he missed that? Where did Nikolai disappear to? Dominic asked, not taking his eyes off the board. After he left professional chess. Brooklyn. Trevor pulled up records on his tablet. He married Elena, moved to a rent-controlled apartment in Sunset Park. Worked as a chess instructor at community centers and libraries. Paid cash, stayed off the grid, never competed professionally again. According to neighbors, he spent all his time with his daughter. Teaching her. Apparently. Trevor highlighted something on his screen. I found an old article from a local Brooklyn paper. 5 years ago. About a chess program at the public library. Nikolai ran it. There's a quote, "My daughter will be greater than I ever was. She has the gift, but more importantly, she has time to perfect it." Zara moved her queen into position. Dominic's king had nowhere safe to run. He sacrificed his rook to buy 3 more moves, maybe 4 if he was lucky. Drop a comment where you're watching from. This story's about to break your heart. Tell me about your father. Dominic kept his voice conversational, though inside he felt like he was drowning. Nikolai Volkov. Why did he quit competing? He was 28, at the peak of his career. He could have been world champion. Zara's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her dark eyes. Pain, maybe. Or memory. He met my mother at a hospital in Manhattan. She was his nurse after a tournament injury, broken wrist. He said she smiled at him like he was human instead of a chess machine. They married 6 months later. I was born a year after that. She moved her bishop. Dominic's remaining defensive structure crumbled. He told me he quit because chess had given him everything it could, but a family could give him something no championship ever would. Meaning. Legacy. Love. Her voice went quieter. He said winning tournaments made him famous. But teaching me chess made him immortal. The crowd pressed closer. Dominic heard a woman crying softly. Camera phones captured every moment. This wasn't entertainment anymore. This was a tragedy playing out in real time, a child who'd lost everything except the gift her father had given her, using that gift to gamble for the one thing she needed most. A home. What happened after he died? Dominic moved his king 1 square left. Delaying the inevitable. Child Protective Services came. Zara's hand stayed steady on the chess pieces, but her voice carried the exhaustion of someone far older than 9. They said I couldn't live alone. I told them I had money. My father had saved $17,000 for my chess training. They said a child can't access inheritance without a guardian. So they put me in foster care while the court sorted it out. 5 placements in 11 months. The first family had 6 kids already. I was quiet, so they forgot about me. The second family wanted a baby, not a 9-year-old. The third family's biological son didn't like sharing attention. The fourth family moved to New Jersey and didn't want to take me. The fifth family, where I am now, is okay. They're not cruel. Just overwhelmed. 23 kids in a house that should hold 12. Everyone survives. Nobody thrives. She moved her remaining rook. The trap closed around Dominic's king like a vice. And the money your father saved? Still tied up in probate court. Nobody cares enough to push the case forward. I'm just another foster kid in an overloaded system. They'll get to me eventually, they say. Maybe when I'm 18 and it doesn't matter anymore. Dominic studied her face. No tears. No self-pity. Just factual recitation of a broken system failing a child who'd already lost everything. He moved his queen, trying one last desperate counterattack. Zara blocked it with her knight. The position was hopeless now. Even Dominic could see it. Your foster parents know you play chess. They know I'm quiet and don't cause trouble. That's all they care about. I have a notebook where I solve chess problems. They think it's homework. Zara positioned her pieces for the final sequence. Nobody asks questions. Nobody looks deeper. I'm just another file number in a system that's drowning. Around them, the ballroom had fallen into complete silence. 500 people watched a 9-year-old girl dissect not just a chess position, but the failures of institutions designed to protect children like her. Trevor touched Dominic's shoulder. Sir, the AI confirms it. 3 moves until checkmate. No escape sequence available. Dominic looked up at Zara. Really looked at her. Past the donated clothes and unwashed hair. Past the thin wrists and holes in her sneakers. He saw what Nikolai Volkov must have seen, raw talent combined with discipline most adults never achieved. A mind that could calculate 20 moves ahead and execute them flawlessly under pressure. A grandmaster in the making, trapped in a system that didn't recognize genius when it wore second-hand sneakers. Your father trained you for this moment, Dominic said. Not this exact moment. But moments like it. Where everything rides on your ability to perform when it matters most. He trained me to be a champion. Zara's hand hovered over her queen. But he also trained me to survive. Chess isn't just a game, Mr. Sterling. It's a language. A way of thinking. A tool for navigating a world that doesn't care if you win or lose. He gave me the only weapon I'd ever need. She moved her queen into position. Checkmate in 2 moves. You can resign now, or I can finish it. Your choice. Subscribe, the next chapter changes everything. Dominic stared at the board. At the inevitable end written in ivory and ebony. At the 9-year-old girl who'd just beaten one of the world's best amateur players using strategies her dead father had taught her in a Brooklyn apartment while the chess world forgot they existed. He reached across the board and tipped over his king. The click of ivory against marble sounded like a gavel falling. Dominic Sterling had just lost everything. And somehow gained something he didn't know he needed. The toppled king rolled across the marble chessboard, its hollow click echoing through the Windsor ballroom's stunned silence. For exactly 3 seconds, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The crystal chandeliers above seemed to hold their light, waiting. Then chaos erupted like a dam breaking. Camera flashes exploded like lightning strikes. Reporters surged forward, shouting questions over each other in a cacophony that made words meaningless. The live-stream comment sections across every platform scrolled so fast the words blurred into vertical rivers of shock, celebration, and disbelief. Hashtags trended instantly. Hashtag chess prodigy. Hashtag billionaire beaten. Hashtag Zara Volkov. Dominic sat frozen, staring at the board where his king lay defeated. 14 moves. She'd beaten him in 14 moves, not the 15 she'd predicted. Even her own estimate had been conservative, giving him more credit than he deserved. Trevor's phone buzzed violently in his hand like an angry hornet. He glanced at the screen, face draining of color. Sir, we have a problem. A serious problem. I can see that. Dominic gestured at the board, his voice hollow. No. A bigger problem. Trevor turned his tablet around. The screen showed Dominic's company stock price in real time. Sterling AI Technologies. The line graph looked like a ski slope, dropping 7% in the 15 minutes since Zara delivered checkmate. The markets are reacting faster than our PR team can spin this. Your whole business model is built on AI chess superiority. You've spent 17 years claiming human players are obsolete, that machines have surpassed human capability. Now a 9-year-old just destroyed you while your billion-dollar AI watched and failed to predict it. Across the ballroom, Dominic's tech team huddled around their monitoring station like doctors around a dying patient, 6 engineers staring at screens displaying code, probability matrices, and the game replay running in loops. The lead engineer, Patricia Chen, approached with her laptop open, her expression the kind you wore to funerals and bankruptcies. "Mr. Sterling, we need to talk about the AI's performance. Right now." "Later." Dominic stood, straightening his tuxedo jacket with hands that wanted to shake. The crowd pressed closer, phones extended like weapons designed to capture his humiliation from every angle. Zara remained seated, hands folded in her lap, watching him with those unnerving dark eyes that seemed older than 9, older than they had any right to be. "Now, sir." Patricia's voice carried urgency that cut through the noise like a knife. "The AI failed. Completely. Catastrophically. It predicted her first 5 moves accurately. After that? Nothing. Zero accuracy. She played combinations our system has never encountered. Strategies that don't exist in any database we've trained on. It's like," she hesitated, searching for words that wouldn't sound insane. "Like what?" "Like she's playing chess that hasn't been invented yet. Comment below if you think humans can still beat machines." Dominic took the laptop, scrolled through the data with growing dread. His AI system. The crown jewel of Sterling Technologies, the program that had beaten grandmasters across 3 continents, the algorithm he'd planned to unveil tonight as definitive proof of machine superiority over human intelligence, had given Zara a 12% win probability after her 3rd move. By move 7, it had recalculated to 47%. By move 10, 89%. By move 12, it had stopped calculating entirely and displayed an error message he'd never seen in 15 years of development. Unknown strategy pattern. Insufficient data for accurate prediction. Recommend system review. Impossible, Dominic muttered, scrolling through pages of failed calculations. We've trained this system on every recorded chess game since 1850. Over 5 million matches. Every grandmaster strategy. Every tournament game played at international level. Every documented variation. Every recorded game, Patricia interrupted, her finger jabbing at the screen. But Nikolai Volkov stopped competing professionally in 2016. Disappeared completely from the chess world. Anything he developed after that, anything he innovated in private, anything he taught his daughter over 8 years, our system never learned it. Never saw it. Never trained on it. She's playing with knowledge that exists outside our database. Your AI can't predict what it's never been taught. We're watching the limits of machine learning in real time. The implications hit Dominic like cold water over his head. His entire business model, his billion-dollar valuation, his reputation as a visionary, rested on the premise that artificial intelligence had surpassed human capability in chess. That machines could outthink, outstrategize, outplay any human opponent through superior calculation and pattern recognition. Tonight's gala was supposed to prove that conclusively, cementing his legacy. Instead, a 9-year-old orphan in donated clothes had just demonstrated the opposite. Had shown 500 of New York's elite that human creativity could still surprise machines. That there were forms of intelligence algorithms couldn't capture. His phone vibrated like it was having a seizure. Text messages flooded in faster than he could read them. Board members. Investors. Business partners. Competitors smelling blood. All saying the same thing in different words: fix this. Control the narrative. Save the stock price. Now. A reporter broke through security, microphone thrust toward Dominic's face like an accusation. "Mr. Sterling. You promised to adopt Zara if she won. The whole world heard it. Will you honor that commitment, or was it just entertainment?" Dominic started. It was entertainment, his lawyer, Bernard Walsh, materialized beside him like an expensive genie, 65 years old and perpetually suspicious of anything that might generate lawsuits or liability. A verbal statement made in jest at a charity event. Not legally binding, particularly with a minor who lacks capacity to contract. Mr. Sterling has no legal obligation. I made a promise. Dominic's voice came out harder than intended, cutting through Bernard's legal maneuvering. The crowd quieted. Cameras focused with predatory intensity. This moment would define him more than any product launch or earnings report ever could. I said if she beat me, I'd adopt her. She beat me. The promise stands. Dominic, think about this, Bernard hissed, grabbing his elbow. Single man. No child-rearing experience. 80-hour work weeks. High-pressure career. You're literally the worst candidate for adoption. Any social worker with half a brain would laugh you out of the room. He's right. The voice came from behind them, cutting through the murmurs. A woman in her 50s pushed through the crowd, holding up a laminated badge that read Queens County Child Services. Alice Morrison, her name tag said. Director. Mr. Sterling, I appreciate the sentiment. Truly. But adoption isn't a transaction you can negotiate like a business deal. It's a legal process with strict requirements. Background checks. Home studies. Psychological evaluations. Parenting classes. The process takes months, sometimes years. And frankly, your lifestyle doesn't suggest you'd be approved. Dominic turned to Zara, still sitting at the chess table like an island of calm in a storm of chaos. She carefully packed the pieces into their felt-lined box, movements precise and methodical. The same discipline she'd shown during the match. No tears. No pleading. No desperate appeals. Just quiet acceptance that the world had let her down again, exactly like it always did. Something in Dominic's chest twisted painfully. He recognized that expression. He'd worn it himself at 12 years old when his parents died in a car accident, and he'd learned that nobody wanted to adopt an angry preteen who was too old to be cute and too young to be independent. The foster system had chewed him up, spit him out, taught him that survival meant relying only on himself. The system had failed him then. He'd survived through spite and intelligence, building an empire to prove everyone who'd dismissed him wrong. Now he was part of that same system, making promises he couldn't keep to a child who'd already lost everything that mattered. Ms. Morrison, Dominic said carefully, choosing words like a chess player choosing moves, what would it take? Hypothetically. For someone like me to adopt someone like Zara? Alice studied him with eyes that had seen too many broken promises, weighing whether he was serious or just managing his public image for the cameras. Hypothetically. You'd need stable housing appropriate for a child. Steady income, which you obviously have. Character references from people who know you personally, not professionally. Proof you can provide emotional support, not just financial resources. You'd need to pass a home study showing you understand child development, trauma-informed care, and age-appropriate parenting. Given Zara's history of loss and displacement, you'd likely need regular therapy sessions for both of you. And, she paused meaningfully. You'd need to actually want to be a father. Not a benefactor. Not a guardian. A father. Because that child has already lost enough. The ballroom had fallen silent again. 500 people watched Dominic Sterling, tech billionaire, chess champion, man who'd built his reputation on cold logic and ruthless efficiency, face a question he'd spent 43 years avoiding. Did he want to be a father? 24 hours ago, the answer would have been an immediate, emphatic no. Children represented chaos. Unpredictability. Emotional complications he'd carefully engineered out of his life. But 24 hours ago, he hadn't met Zara Volkov. Subscribe, you won't believe what he does next. Dominic looked at the 9-year-old girl who'd just dismantled his ego, crashed his stock price, and exposed the fundamental limitations of technology he'd claimed was perfect. She'd done it with grace, precision, and a gift her dead father had given her because it was the only inheritance that couldn't be stolen. "Start the paperwork," Dominic said. "Tonight. I want the adoption process started immediately." Bernard grabbed his arm hard enough to wrinkle the tuxedo sleeve. "Dominic, you cannot be serious. Think about your company. Your reputation. Your lifestyle. Your freedom." "My lifestyle just got beaten by a 9-year-old, Dominic interrupted. "Maybe it needs to change." He crossed to the chess table, extended his hand to Zara. She looked at it suspiciously, like it might be a trap. "I made you a promise," Dominic said. "I'm keeping it. But Ms. Morrison is right, adoption takes time. So here's what we'll do. I'll start the process tomorrow morning. You'll stay in your foster home for now because the law requires it. But every day after school, you'll come to my office. We'll work on the adoption requirements together. I'll learn to be a father. You'll learn to trust again. Deal?" Zara's eyes searched his face, looking for the lie. The trick. The inevitable disappointment that always came when adults made promises they couldn't keep. She didn't find it. Slowly, cautiously, she reached out and shook his hand. "Deal. But Mr. Sterling, if you break this promise, I'll beat you at chess again. Publicly. And next time, I'll make it hurt worse." Dominic laughed despite everything crumbling around him. "I believe you." The crowd erupted in applause that sounded like thunder. Camera flashes renewed with blinding intensity. His phone exploded with messages, some supportive, most calling him insane. Dominic didn't care anymore. For the first time in his carefully calculated life, he'd made a decision based on something other than profit margins and strategic advantage. He'd made it because it was right. 3 days after the Windsor Hotel disaster, Dominic sat in a conference room 43 floors above Manhattan, watching his empire fracture in real time. The glass walls overlooked the city he'd conquered through intellect and ruthless ambition. Today, that city felt like it was watching him fall. Sterling AI Technologies dropped another 12% this morning, his CFO, Marcus Chen, said flatly. The conference table held 8 board members, all wearing expressions ranging from concerned to hostile. "We're down 19% total since the chess match. That's $4 billion in market value. Gone. Because you lost to a child. I didn't just lose." Dominic kept his voice level. "I got destroyed by a 9-year-old who played chess our AI couldn't predict. That's the real story. That's what the markets are reacting to." "The markets are reacting to your impulsive adoption promise," snapped Victoria Hayes, the board's eldest member. 70 years old with steel-gray hair and sharper instincts. "You committed to adopting a foster child on live television in front of 500 witnesses and millions watching online. The internet is calling you either a saint or insane. Our investors think it's the latter." Trevor pulled up social media analytics on the screen. Dominic's name was trending across 6 platforms. The responses split into 2 distinct camps. One side praised his integrity, "Billionaire keeps promise to orphan, humanity restored, adopt don't shop extended to children." The other side tore him apart, "Publicity stunt, savior complex, unqualified bachelor playing house with traumatized child." "The negative press is killing us," Marcus continued. "Tech analysts are You work 90-hour weeks. You travel constantly. Your penthouse isn't child-proofed. You don't know the first thing about raising a 9-year-old girl who's experienced trauma. This is corporate suicide based on emotional impulse." "You're right about most of that," Dominic acknowledged. "But I made a promise. Breaking it would prove every critic right, that I'm just another billionaire who thinks money exempts him from integrity." "Integrity doesn't pay dividends," Marcus muttered. Trevor cleared his throat. "Actually, it might. I've been monitoring the data. Yes, we've taken a stock hit. But our brand recognition has increased 40%. Sterling AI Technologies was known in tech circles. Now we're mainstream news. Saturday Night Live did a sketch about the match. Late-night hosts are talking about us. Our website traffic is up 300%. Job applications increased by 60%. Apparently people want to work for the company that got beaten by a 9-year-old because it makes us seem more human. He pulled up more analytics. And here's the interesting part. 72% of survey respondents under 35 say they'd be more likely to buy from a company whose CEO adopted a foster child. Millennials and Gen Z consumers value social responsibility. They're watching what you do next. So we're turning child adoption into a marketing strategy? Victoria's voice dripped disgust. That's grotesque. No. Dominic stood, pacing to the windows. Manhattan sprawled below, millions of people living lives he never thought about. I'm keeping a promise because it's right. If that helps the company, fine. If it doesn't, I'll figure it out. But I'm not using Zara as a publicity tool. She's been used enough. The conference room door opened. Bernard Walsh entered, carrying a folder thick with documents. We have a problem. Riverside Group residents where Zara's staying contacted me. Apparently, since the chess match went viral, they've been flooded with adoption inquiries for her. 7 families have submitted applications. Child Services is reviewing them. Dominic's stomach dropped. What? She's suddenly a desirable adoption candidate. Chess prodigy daughter of Nikolai Volkov. Cute, articulate, comes with viral fame. People see $signs, future endorsements, book deals, media appearances. 3 of the applications are from families with social media followings in the millions. They want to exploit her. The words came out flat, emotionless, but rage burned underneath. Dominic knew exactly what those families saw. Not a traumatized child who needed stability. A commodity. A brand. A revenue stream. Legally, you have no standing, Bernard said carefully. You filed adoption paperwork but you're not her guardian. Child Services will evaluate all applications and choose what they believe is in her best interest. Your wealth is an advantage, but your inexperience is a significant disadvantage. A married couple with parenting experience and Instagram followers could easily be chosen over you. Trevor pulled up one of the applications. The Fletcher family. Husband and wife, both 38. 2 biological children. Popular YouTube channel about their blessed family life. 4 million subscribers. Their application specifically mentioned Zara's chess abilities and the amazing content opportunities she represented. Dominic felt nauseous. When does Child Services decide? He asked. 2 weeks. Maybe 3. They'll interview all families, conduct home studies, review backgrounds. It's competitive now. You're not the only option anymore. The board members exchanged glances. Victoria spoke first. This is your out, Dominic. Let another family adopt her. You tried. Nobody can fault you. The girl gets a home. You keep your company intact. Everyone wins. Dominic thought about Zara sitting at that chess table, packing away pieces with quiet acceptance when the world let her down again. He thought about her eyes, old, tired, expecting nothing because expecting anything led to disappointment. He thought about himself at 12, bouncing between foster homes, learning that adults lied and promises meant nothing. Subscribe to see what happens next. Schedule a meeting with Alice Morrison, Dominic said. Today. I want to know exactly what it takes to win this adoption review. Money, time, whatever resources needed. I'm not losing to Instagram influencers who see a child as content. Dominic, Victoria started. Meeting adjourned. Dominic gathered his things. Marcus, handle the stock situation however you need to. Trevor, keep monitoring public sentiment. Bernard, prepare everything for the adoption review. The rest of you, figure out how to fix the AI's limitations. If a 9-year-old can break our system, so can our competitors. That's the real problem we should be solving. He walked out before anyone could argue, pulling out his phone. One unread message from an unknown number. Unknown, Mr. Sterling. This is Zara. The group home got me a phone so social workers can reach me. I heard about the other families applying. I understand if you changed your mind. Thank you for trying. Z. Dominic stared at the message. Thank you for trying. Like she'd already accepted losing. Already prepared herself for another disappointment. Another broken promise from another adult who didn't follow through. He typed back. Dominic, I haven't changed my mind. I made you a promise. I keep my promises. See you tomorrow after school. Bring your chess notebook. D. The reply came 30 seconds later. Zara, okay. I'll believe you when I see it. Dominic smiled despite everything. Smart kid. Trust had to be earned, not demanded. He had 2 weeks to prove he was different from every other adult who'd let her down. 2 weeks to learn how to be someone's father. 2 weeks to figure out how to beat families who looked perfect on paper while he looked like a reckless billionaire having a midlife crisis. The game had changed. The stakes were higher than any business deal. And Dominic Sterling hated losing. Dominic's penthouse at 2 a.m. was silent except for the hum of his laptop and the distant sounds of Manhattan traffic 47 floors below. He'd been researching for 6 hours straight, coffee cups accumulating on his desk like evidence of obsession. The screen glowed with tabs, adoption requirements, child psychology articles, trauma-informed parenting guides, and Zara's case file that Alice Morrison had reluctantly shared after he'd signed a dozen confidentiality agreements. The file painted a picture more devastating than he'd imagined. Zara Elena Volkov. Born March 15, Brooklyn Methodist Hospital. Mother, Elena Maria Rodriguez, 28, nurse. Father, Nikolai Sergei Volkov, 29, chess instructor. Normal childhood until age 6 when Elena's cancer diagnosis shattered everything. Stage 4 ovarian cancer. 6 months from diagnosis to death. Zara had watched her mother deteriorate in a hospital bed set up in their small apartment because Elena refused to die anywhere her daughter couldn't reach her. Dominic scrolled through medical records, social worker notes, school reports. After Elena's death, Nikolai had spiraled into depression but somehow held himself together for Zara. Worked 3 jobs, chess instructor at the library, private lessons for wealthy Manhattan kids, night shift stocking shelves at a warehouse. Every penny went into a savings account marked Zara's Future, Chess Training Fund. $17,000 over 3 years. Then the notes from 14 months ago. Nikolai Volkov, age 37, sudden cardiac arrest while teaching an evening chess class. Died before the ambulance arrived. Zara had been in the same room, watching her father collapse mid-sentence while explaining the Sicilian defense to a student. Another parent dead. This time with witnesses. The case notes after that read like a catalog of systemic failure. Zara placed with the Morrison family, no relation to Alice Morrison, in Brooklyn. Lasted 3 weeks before they requested her removal. Child is uncommunicative and shows no interest in bonding with family members. Spends all time alone with chess notebook. Refuses to participate in family activities. Second placement, the Chen family in Queens. 2 months. Child exhibits emotional detachment. Does not respond to affection. We feel unequipped to handle her trauma. Third placement, the Rodriguez family, distant cousins of Zara's mother who'd never met her before. 5 weeks. Child is too quiet. Our biological children find her strange. We thought we could help family but this isn't working. Fourth placement, the Patterson family in the Bronx. 3 months. We're moving to New Jersey for my husband's job. We cannot take Zara with us. We apologize. 5th placement, Riverside Group Residence. Current. 11 months and counting. A facility designed for short-term emergency housing, now Zara's longest placement since her father's death. Dominic found the psychological evaluations. Dr. Helena Vance, child psychologist, had assessed Zara 6 months ago. Subject presents with symptoms consistent with complex trauma and unresolved grief. Has experienced catastrophic loss of both parents by age 8. Shows emotional withdrawal as protective mechanism. Intelligence testing reveals IQ of 156, placing her in the 99.9th percentile. Chess ability assessed as potentially grandmaster level with proper training. However, subject's trauma response interferes with social bonding. She views relationships as temporary and prepares emotionally for abandonment. Requires long-term therapeutic intervention and stable placement with caregiver equipped to handle gifted child with trauma history. Prognosis, guarded without appropriate intervention. Dominic sat back, rubbing his eyes. Guarded prognosis. Clinical language 4, this kid is drowning and nobody knows how to save her. He opened another tab, video footage he'd found buried in a Brooklyn library's digital archives. Nikolai Volkov teaching a children's chess class 3 years ago. The video was grainy, shot on someone's phone, but clear enough to see Zara sitting beside her father, maybe 6 years old, watching him demonstrate moves on a demonstration board. Comment where you're watching from, this gets emotional. Nikolai's voice carried through the speakers, accented but clear. Chess is not about winning. Chess is about thinking. About seeing. About understanding that every move changes everything. You cannot control what your opponent does. You can only control how you respond. Life is same way. You understand, yes. The children in the class nodded. But Nikolai was looking at Zara when he said it. Like he was teaching her something bigger than chess. Teaching her how to survive what he somehow knew was coming. Dominic found more videos. Zara at 7, playing a timed match against a teenager twice her age. Winning. Nikolai in the background beaming with quiet pride. Zara at 8, solving chess puzzles at a library table while her father taught nearby, glancing over periodically to check her answers. Always correct. Always faster than expected. The last video was dated 15 months ago. 1 month before Nikolai's death. A local news segment about the library's chess program facing budget cuts. Nikolai being interviewed, Zara sitting quietly beside him. Why is chess important for children? The reporter asked. Nikolai's hand rested on Zara's shoulder. Because chess teaches you that even when you are losing, you are not defeated. There is always another move. Always another strategy. Always hope. My daughter, he squeezed Zara's shoulder gently. She will be greatest player I ever taught. Not because she is most talented, though she is very talented. Because she has something more important than talent. She has resilience. She has survived hard things already. And chess teaches her that surviving is first step to winning. The video ended. Dominic sat in silence, thinking about resilience. About a 9-year-old who'd buried both parents, survived 5 placements, maintained her chess skills through chaos that would break most adults. Who'd walked into a ballroom full of billionaires and played the match of her life because it was the only move left. His phone buzzed. Email from Alice Morrison, sent at 2:17 a.m. Subject, competitor applications. Dominic, thought you should know. We received 3 more adoption applications for Zara today. Total now stands at 10 families. Several are very strong candidates. I'm not supposed to share details, but you need to understand what you're up against. The Fletcher family's home study came back perfect. The Rodriguezchen family has fostered 6 children successfully. The Blackwell family includes a child psychologist and a former chess champion. You're competing against people who look ideal on paper. Your advantages are wealth and genuine connection with Zara. Your disadvantages are inexperience, demanding career, and single status. The review board meets in 11 days. I suggest you spend that time demonstrating commitment, not just promising it. Alice. 11 days. Dominic looked at his calendar. 3 board meetings. 2 investor presentations. 1 product launch. A schedule that left maybe 6 hours total for proving he could be a father. He deleted everything. Cleared his calendar. Sent 1 email to his executive team: I'm unavailable for the next 11 days except for emergencies. Trevor has authority to make operational decisions. Handle it. Then he texted Alice Morrison, what do I need to do? Her response came immediately, like she'd been waiting. Be in my office at 8 a.m. Bring comfortable clothes. If you want to prove you can be Zara's father, you need to understand her world. Not from a penthouse. From the group home where she lives. From the school she attends. From the life she's actually living. Observation starts tomorrow. Hope you're ready to see how the other half lives. Dominic looked around his penthouse. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Designer furniture. Art worth 6 figures. A refrigerator containing a bottle of champagne and leftover takeout. No food a child would eat. No space a child would feel comfortable. A monument to success that suddenly felt empty. Subscribe, the next chapter changes everything. He thought about Zara's message, I'll believe you when I see it. Smart kid. Words were easy. Actions were proof. Dominic shut his laptop and went to his bedroom to pack. If he was going to win this, he needed to stop being Dominic Sterling, billionaire CEO. He needed to become someone Zara could trust. And he had 11 days to figure out how. Alice Morrison's office in Queens smelled like burnt coffee and bureaucracy. File cabinets lined the walls, each one stuffed with folders representing children trapped in a system designed to help but too overwhelmed to succeed. Dominic sat in a chair that had seen better decades, wearing jeans and a plain shirt instead of his usual suit. He felt exposed without the armor of expensive clothing. Riverside Group Residence houses 23 children, Alice said, pouring coffee into a chipped mug. Designed for 12. Zara shares a bedroom with 4 other girls ages 7 to 11. 2 sets of bunk beds and a cot. She gets the cot because she was last to arrive. Wake up is 6 a.m. Lights out is 9 p.m. Meals are communal, institutional quality. Think school cafeteria but with less funding. The staff does their best, but they're outnumbered and underpaid. She pulled up photos on her laptop. The facility looked exactly like Dominic imagined: worn linoleum floors, walls that needed painting, furniture held together with hope and duct tape. Not cruel, just exhausted. A building trying to be a home for too many kids with too few resources. Zara attends PS 122, Alice continued. Public school 6 blocks away. She walks there alone because the group home doesn't have staff for escorts. She's in 4th grade but reading at an 8th grade level. Math at a 10th grade level. Teachers say she's brilliant but socially isolated. Sits alone at lunch. Doesn't participate in group activities. Goes to the library during recess to work on chess problems. Does she have friends? Dominic asked. None that we've documented. The other children find her intimidating. She's too smart, too serious, too different. She makes them uncomfortable. Alice closed the laptop, studied Dominic. Here's what you need to understand. Zara isn't a normal 9-year-old. She's a grieving, traumatized child with genius-level intelligence and skills most adults never develop. She needs structure, therapy, specialized education, and someone who can handle both her gifts and her pain. That's a tall order for an experienced parent. For someone who's never raised a child. It's nearly impossible. I understand. I don't think you do. Alice's voice sharpened. You've spent $11 billion building companies. You can buy the best therapists, the best schools, the best everything. But you can't buy attachment. You can't buy trust. You can't buy the 1,000 small moments that turn a guardian into a parent. Zara has been abandoned by death and by choice. She's learned that adults leave. That homes are temporary. That love expires. Breaking through that takes more than good intentions and money. Dominic met her gaze. What does it take? Time. Consistency. Being there when you're exhausted, frustrated, and questioning every choice. Being there when she pushes you away because pushing people away is her survival mechanism. Being there for years, not months. Are you ready for that? Comment below if you think he can do this. Before Dominic could answer, Alice's phone rang. She glanced at it, frowned. It's Riverside. Give me a second. She answered, listened, her expression darkening. I'll be there in 20 minutes. She hung up. We need to go. Now. There's been an incident involving Zara. They took Alice's car, a beat-up Honda with a broken air conditioner. 20 minutes later, they pulled up to Riverside Group Residence, a 3-story brick building that had probably been beautiful once. Now it just looked tired. Inside, chaos greeted them. Staff members trying to calm crying children. A social worker talking urgently on her phone. And in the hallway, Zara sitting on a wooden bench, staring at nothing, while a woman in her 40s stood nearby recording her with a phone. What's going on? Alice demanded. The facility director, Patricia Okonkwo, approached with apologetic exhaustion. The Fletcher family showed up unannounced. Said they wanted to meet Zara informally, get to know her before the official review. When I explained we don't allow that, Mrs. Fletcher started filming anyway. Said the public deserves to see where poor Zara is living. That her followers would be heartbroken seeing these conditions. Mrs. Fletcher, blonde, perfectly styled, wearing designer clothes that probably cost more than Patricia made in a month, smiled at her phone camera. This is where little Zara lives, guys. Can you believe this? 23 kids in a facility designed for 12. This sweet, brilliant child deserves so much better. If you want to follow our adoption journey and help us bring Zara into a loving home, link in bio. Dominic's hands clenched into fists. She was live streaming. Using Zara's trauma as content. Exploiting a child's vulnerability for social media engagement. He approached the woman. Turn off the camera. Mrs. Fletcher looked at him, recognition flashing. Dominic Sterling. The billionaire who lost at chess. My followers will love this. 2 families competing for the same special needs child. What a story. She's not special needs. She's traumatized. And you're making it worse. Dominic kept his voice level despite rage burning underneath. Turn off the camera or I'll have you removed for trespassing and harassment of a minor. I have every right. Alice stepped between them, her professional voice sharp as broken glass. You have no rights here. This is a private facility. You're live streaming children without consent. That's illegal. Turn off your phone now or I'm calling the police. Mrs. Fletcher's smile faltered. She glanced at her phone screen, 12,000 viewers watching live. My lawyer will. Your lawyer will explain why you're facing charges for exploiting foster children. Alice pulled out her own phone. Police are 1 call away. Choose fast. The live stream ended. Mrs. Fletcher gathered her designer purse, shooting poisonous looks at both of them. You haven't won, Sterling. The review board will see that our family is perfect for Zara. We have experience. Stability. A real home. What do you have? A penthouse and good intentions? She left, heels clicking against linoleum like a countdown. Dominic turned to Zara, still sitting on that bench. She hadn't moved. Hadn't reacted to the confrontation. Just sat there with empty eyes that had learned not to hope. He crossed to her, crouched down to eye level. You okay? I'm fine. Her voice came out flat. This happens now. People want to adopt the chess girl. They don't want me. Just the story of me. The content I represent. Subscribe to see what happens next. I don't want a story. I want. Dominic stopped. What did he want? He'd asked himself that question for 11 days and still didn't have a complete answer. Zara looked at him, and for the first time her mask cracked. What do you want, Mr. Sterling? Really? Because everyone wants something. Mrs. Fletcher wants followers. The other families want the miracle adoption story. What do you want? Dominic thought about his empty penthouse. His 80-hour work weeks. His carefully constructed life that had everything except meaning. He thought about losing to Zara at chess and feeling more alive in that moment than he had in years. I want to not be alone anymore, he said honestly. I want to matter to someone. And maybe I want to prove that I can be the person I needed when I was 12 and nobody gave a damn. Zara studied his face for a long moment. You were in foster care. 7 different homes in 4 years. I aged out at 18 with $200 and a garbage bag of clothes. Built my company because I had nothing else. Money filled the empty space. Until I met you and realized it's still empty. Just expensive empty now. Silence stretched between them. Then Zara spoke, voice barely above a whisper. If you adopt me, I might not love you. Not right away. Maybe not ever. I don't know how anymore. Everyone I loved died or left. I can't survive another loss like that. So I don't feel things. It's safer. Dominic's chest ached. I know. I was the same way. Took me 30 years to figure out that safety and living aren't the same thing. Are they choosing you? Zara asked. At the review? Or am I going to a family that wants a chess trophy they can film? I don't know, Dominic admitted. But I'm going to fight like hell to make sure you don't become someone's content. Zara nodded slowly. Okay. Then I'll fight too. For the first time since he'd met her, she reached out and took his hand. It felt like checkmate and victory and terrifying responsibility all at once. The review board meeting took place in a windowless conference room that smelled like anxiety and instant coffee. 5 people sat behind a long table: Alice Morrison, 2 child psychologists, a family court judge named Helena Vance, and a foster care advocate named Marcus Reed. Dominic sat across from them, wearing a suit that suddenly felt like a costume. Zara waited outside with a social worker, per protocol. 10 families had applied. Only 3 had been invited to final interviews. The Fletchers, social media influencers with 4 million followers. The Rodriguez family, experienced foster parents who'd successfully adopted 6 children. And Dominic Sterling, billionaire with 0 parenting experience and a penthouse that had been deemed suitable but impersonal during the home study. Mr. Sterling, Judge Vance began, reading from a folder thick with documentation. You've completed all required coursework. Passed background checks. Your financial resources are obviously more than adequate. Your therapist reports you're making progress processing your own foster care trauma. But I have concerns. Dominic's stomach tightened. What concerns? You've known Zara for 3 weeks. The Fletchers have spent 30 hours with her over multiple supervised visits. The Rodriguez family has hosted her for weekend stays. You've spent most of your time in classes and meetings. Can you honestly say you know this child? Before Dominic could respond, Alice interrupted. Your Honor, if I may. Mr. Sterling has done something the other families haven't. He's shown up consistently. Every single day after Zara's school, he's been at Riverside. Not for cameras. Not for supervised visits with social workers documenting everything. Just showing up. Teaching her about business. Learning chess from her. Sitting in silence when she doesn't want to talk. The staff reports Zara asks about him every morning. That's attachment forming. Dr. Sarah Chen, one of the psychologists, leaned forward. Attachment with a traumatized child takes time. Years, typically. Mr. Sterling's career demands are substantial. How do you plan to balance running 3 companies with raising a child who requires intensive therapeutic support? I'm stepping down as CEO, Dominic said. The words came out steady despite representing a decision he'd made at 4 a.m. that morning. Effective immediately. I'll remain chairman of the board, but operational control transfers to my executive team. I've already signed the papers. Shocked silence. Alice's eyebrows shot up. Even Judge Vance looked surprised. You're giving up your companies? Marcus Reed asked. Comment where you're watching from, this is huge. I'm giving up running them day to day. They'll survive without me. Probably thrive. Turns out I built good teams. But Zara won't survive another placement that fails. She needs someone who shows up. Not just physically but emotionally. I can't do that while working 80-hour weeks. Dominic pulled out his phone, showed them screenshots. I've also enrolled her in the Marshall Chess Academy. Starting next month. Private coaching 3 times a week with a former grandmaster. Her father's dream was for her to compete professionally. I'm making that happen. Dr. Chen reviewed the documents. This is significant commitment. But Mr. Sterling, Zara doesn't just need chess training. She needs a parent who understands childhood development, who can navigate her trauma responses, who can fail and try again, Dominic interrupted. I'm not going to be a perfect father. I'll make mistakes. But I won't give up. That's what Zara needs most, someone who stays when things get hard. The Fletchers will bail when she stops generating content. The Rodriguez-Chens are wonderful people, but they're already stretched thin with 6 kids. I can give Zara my full attention. My full commitment. My full life. Judge Vance studied him for a long moment. Why her specifically? You could adopt any child. Younger, less traumatized, easier to parent. Why Zara? Dominic thought about that chessboard. About ivory pieces clicking on marble. About dark eyes that expected nothing because hoping hurt too much. Because she beat me at the one thing I thought I'd mastered. Because she's brilliant and broken and deserves someone who sees both. Because when I look at her, I see myself at 12, convinced I was unlovable because nobody chose me. I want to be the person who chooses her. Not because she's a chess prodigy. Because she's Zara. The board members conferred quietly. 5 minutes stretched into 10. Finally, Judge Vance spoke. We've made our decision. Based on commitment demonstrated, resources available, and most importantly, Zara's own preferences expressed during her private interview this morning, she paused. We're approving your adoption petition, Mr. Sterling. Conditional on 6 months of supervised integration and continued therapy for both of you. Zara will move to your residence in 2 weeks after final preparations. Congratulations. Dominic couldn't breathe. Couldn't process. He'd won. They brought Zara in. She looked at him, question in her eyes. We're going home, Dominic said, his voice breaking. Together. For the second time in 3 weeks, Zara reached for his hand. This time she held on tighter. Subscribe, this story isn't over. 6 months later, Dominic sat in the audience at the National Junior Chess Championship, watching his daughter, compete against players twice her age. She'd been living with him for 4 months. It hadn't been easy. She still had nightmares. Still struggled with trust. Still expected him to leave. But every morning, he was there. Every night, he was there. Slowly, painfully, they were building something that looked like family. Zara delivered checkmate to her opponent, a 15-year-old who'd been favored to win. The youngest player in championship history to claim the title. She looked at Dominic in the audience. Smiled. A real smile that reached her eyes. He smiled back, tears streaming down his face. The billionaire who thought he had everything had finally found what he'd been missing all along. A family. A purpose. A home. And it had started with a 9-year-old girl brave enough to challenge him to a match he never saw coming.